allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alright, we'll get right to it. Dave, do you have any questions on the attendance? We're gonna move on to agenda approval. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to make to the board agenda?
I had a little bit of both. An addition and communications which should be coming around in the orange folder, so if you haven't seen that, that came in after the board agenda. I added one Jaguar Pride today for Beaver Meadows, and just had a typo under the bids for the diesel bids, so I updated that. But that is it for changes.
Does anybody have any questions regarding changes or additions? I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is open forum. Rules for open forum. 3 minutes per speaker. Open forum shall not take more than a total of 15 minutes. No complaints about individual staff members, about students, or about other persons are permitted. All presenters will conduct their business in a manner that meets community standards for decorum. The board will not take action on items presented in open forum. Did anyone sign up?
Nope.
Does anybody wish to speak? All right, then we will move on. First up is insurance presentation. Gabe.
Good evening again. Yeah, I wanted to give a brief overview of the pamphlet that you have all received. Before I do, I just kind of want to give an update, as I typically do, with the status of industry. You've probably seen your typical homeowners and your personal auto policies and kind of where things are going. It's quite interesting. Commercially, we're starting to see things loosen up a little bit. Underwriters are starting to be a little more cautiously optimistic. So they're starting to write risks, and we're starting to see this, and we kind of saw this, and we'll get into it a little bit with the work comp, but it's still, from the commercial perspective, it's getting more and more encouraging, I can say it that way. But they're still cautious. Personal lines is still quite tight. It's a hard market still, given the nature of things, and hopefully we can have a quiet storm season. I know we had the wildfires up north. I don't know how many structures were damaged, but that may have a little bit of an impact, but typically it's the wind hail, that's the catastrophic mess that we run into. We're also seeing from the school district's perspective, statewide, we're seeing our linebacker is essentially professional liability, or D&O, directors and officers coverage. We're seeing a major influx of claims come through statewide with carriers, from all the way from wrongful termination suits to just complaints going to the state running through. We're seeing a lot of that, and it's reflecting into the premiums, unfortunately. So that's one of the big things we're seeing now in every district in the state of Minnesota, as I talk with a couple underwriters about that, which is unfortunate. Regarding our district, for the renewal, as far as the business auto, EMC, they're being a little more restrictive on the glass coverage and deductibles. The property deductibles on the buildings, they will remain the same this year. We'll have $75,000 deductibles for the big three. I call it the elementary school and the high school. So those will stay the same. That's $75,000 wind hail. The other deductibles are much less when it comes to property in the open at $5,000. And then the rest of I call it all of the peril in our industry, so it's fire, explosion, all these other perils are $25,000. So $75,000 wind hail for the big three. One of the good news with the quote itself, and Brian and Bridget and I went through this, the work comp experience modification went down to 0.95, which for the district itself, what that means is we are above average as far as our claims history with respect to work comp. So a job well done to the administrative leadership as well as the safety committee, the time that they put in. We're now showing a credit on our work comp. I think it was probably 7 years ago, where we had a comp mod of like 1.86, which is a major debit, which is a huge ding to our premium. So we're seeing a reflective credit on our work comp because of a lower experience mod. So we're below that 1.00, that's kind of flat. And so we have a nice credit for the work comp. So that's a nice perk. Overall, with the work comp, we talked about changing work comp carriers to SFM. SFM is State Fund Mutual. They are, I think last year they were the top school district work comp carrier in the state of Minnesota. They're very good as far as onboarding. They would work with Bridget and probably Brian, but most likely Bridget. Their onboarding is very, very good, and I've worked with other districts on that. So I have no concerns making that switch from EMC to SFM on the work comp. Overall, with the work comp, by making that change, we're looking at a 6.5% increase on the property casualty, all lines combined. That does consider the savings that we're almost $8,000 we're saving by moving the work comp carrier. We did continue, and we will continue in 2026 as far as the next renewal to remarket and make sure we're capturing all we possibly can with other markets to make sure we stay competitive. Liberty Mutual continues to be a contender, and we'll continue to see if they will continue to play the game with schools in the state of Minnesota. They want the business, and it looks like that could be another adventure to kind of follow in 2026. Any questions regarding the proposal itself?
Brian, do you have anything to add? No questions for Gabe?
I guess I will add one, and then if you saw in there, we are gonna have to pay for glass coverage now. That was probably the biggest change, that at least when Gabe, Bridget, and I talked, that we no longer get free glass coverage, so there will be a deductible of $500 for that.
500 or 5,000?
500.
500.
Is it 500?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
All right, so if there are no other questions, I'm looking for a motion to approve the proposed insurance that Gabe just explained to us.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Have a good
Next.
night.
You too.
Next up is the consent agenda. Does anyone need anything pulled from the consent agenda and placed later in the agenda for further discussion? Brian, did you add anything to the consent agenda? I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it, okay.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is the bills. If you have any questions on the bills, can you please state the page number and the bill number? Does anybody have any questions on the bills? If there are no questions on the bills, I'm looking for a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is reports. Our first is superintendent's report, Mr. Masterson.
Meetings are slowing down this month in July, but they'll pick up both for myself and for committees as we get into August. There is a SCRED meeting tomorrow, which Heather knows about, will be there. They'll set their budget but the superintendents did make that recommendation to the board, so that should go fine. The biggest one, if you haven't turned in your board compensation yet for this fiscal year, the 2024-25 school year, please do that, so we can get that on this fiscal year, and get you guys paid before June 30th. There's a claim form attached if you haven't done that as well, so if board members, if you haven't got paid for something, if you could turn that in by the end of this month. And then I think it's going on 15 years when I went back to my records. We are again gonna offer student insurance. It doesn't cost the district anything, but for those families that do not have insurance, we give them an option to enroll so they have some kind of coverage. It's been a pretty good, we don't probably have a ton of students who sign up for it, but it is something that we have offered to our students going on 15 years now. So that will go out to students when the school year starts. So if the families want either initial insurance or additional insurance coverage, they'll have that opportunity. Any questions for me on my report?
Thank you, Brian.
Okay.
Next up is high school principal's report. Mr. Latimer.
Good evening, board members. So since last time we met, we had graduation, which was May 30th. I thought it went really well. Some of the breakdowns there where we had 70 students graduate, 57 from the high school, 10 from Empower. We had 3 foreign exchange students walk across the stage. We have we've got a few students, 3 moving from the high school to the transition program, which is our 18 to 22-year-old. And we had 2 students who did not, from the high school, that did not graduate this year. But well attended, lots of energy, excitement. So that was a fun night to be a part of. So I just thank everybody behind the scenes who helped put that together and make that happen. So I appreciate everybody's help in that. With that, summer school started today. So we've got 36 for ish credit recovery. We've got some coming in and out. It was a quick turnaround, so we still have kids coming in for some credit recovery, as well as our ESY students, our extended school year, for our students who have an IEP. So that's off and running. We will go 5 days this week and 3 next week, and then for 8 to noon, so 8 to 8:30 is breakfast, 11:30 to noon is lunch, and then they either walk home or they get on the bus and go. So we got all that going on. We've got the handbook we'll be working on. There's been some dialogue between admin and staff looking at what we can do to make our handbook a little bit more user friendly. So I'll be bringing that to you back in August to go through some of those changes that we could be looking at. Excited to announce that we have 3 new student school board members for the 25-26 school year. Sent it out to the senior class and asked if anybody was interested. There was a handful. I think there was 7 or 8 who expressed interest. I sent out a Google form for those students why they want to be on there, what they can bring to the board, and just some questions like that. So pleased to announce that Grady Awesomeness, Haley Geiger, and Riley Scott Windsor will be our student school board members for the 25-26 school year. Tomorrow, got our district leadership team meeting. Like I said, summer school is going on. The bell schedule, you can look at that. We're still tweaking with that a little bit, making sure that we meet the needs of all of our students, just not at the high school, but for our elementaries as well, so we can get the buses set up for that. But that's where we are with the bell schedule for right now. Just to show the behavior data, again from the last meeting we had, I showed you April's, this is May's 1 month look. And again, what we really want to see for behavior data when it comes to referrals is at 85, 10, 5. So we want 85% of our students in the 0 to 1 range, 10% in the 2 to 5 range, and 5% in the 6+, which is a healthy school building. As you can see, again, month over month, we're in that 90%. We came down a little bit. I think we were 92 the previous month, so still in a healthy
position there. And then just our month over month, from the blue is the 23-24 school year, and the orange is the 24-25 school year. Sorry, I'm getting 26 in there now too, so it's getting confusing. 2 each school year, so that is what I have for you for this meeting. Any questions for me?
So it looks like the school day ends at 2:55 instead of after 3 o'clock then?
Correct. So it'd be at 2:55. Yeah, 2:55-ish. I think we're trying to get the elementaries lined up as well. Again, I can't remember which board meeting it was, but we kind of made some adjustments this year where they were dropping off at the high school first, the buses. So we were getting kids at about 7:50 and we didn't start class until 8:20. Well, that's a half hour of like non-instructional time that we have. So we're trying to streamline our process and if we're gonna have the kids in there, let's get them going. We'll start with an advisory and then get them out at 2:55. So in that model, all of them are 48 minutes long. I think that's what I have, 48 minutes long. And instead of having that longer, like this last year's 7th period was 5 extra minutes. Well, everything's the same amount, and then we'll just we'll have that advisory in the morning that'll help a group create that community feel, and then hopefully start the day off that way with that. So.
So that advisory period, that's when the school day begins, everyone has to be there, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I would say it's not gonna be. It's like it still is like, well, you could say yes and no non-instructional time, but it's gonna be that advisory where we're gonna do grade checks. We're gonna do some lessons for the day that one of the things we'll be working on this tomorrow and this month. So we'll be going through those things too. So there will be some things that kids are doing in there. It's just that a half hour is a long time for kids to be out and about, and if we have them, let's learn them.
Sure, so will there be like a warning bell 1 minute prior?
Yes, we're gonna keep the 1 minute warning bell like we have that we set up this year for all of our classes.
So that'll be at 8:04 then?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably have the bell ring at 8 o'clock, just to let everybody know, hey, you got 5 minutes to get to class, and then we'll do a 8:04 warning bell.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Lattimore? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Mrs. Scullard, elementary principals.
Good evening. Like Joe, we'll be doing some work on our handbooks over the summer. There's a couple specifics that we want to tweak a little bit so it's pretty cut and dried. So we'll be solidifying some of those processes and procedures, make it reflect more of what some of those restorative practices that we're using now in there. It's pretty broad right now, so just want to be able to be a little more specific for our parents and students alike. Our master scheduling for Hinckley is done. We will have wind time again. It deemed to be very beneficial this year. Our kids made some really great growth, especially in those title access groups. Wind time is where our kids will either get title access, they'll be pushed to excel a little bit more, or they'll get their special ed services, or they'll just work on solidifying some skills that they're working on in their core classes. Finlayson doesn't have a wind time built in, but they all have quiet time, and they run a very similar wind time during that time. We have no openings at FES right now. We do have a SPED teacher opening at HES, and depending on kind of where our students come in with their needs, we could have some para support needed too, but that's yet to be determined. Our best bill schedule changed a little bit because of the bus time. It's a crazy domino effect. So our kids will be getting into the building at 7:45. So again, that's a domino effect for our support staff. So that is, something that I'll be working on over the next few weeks to determine with their 6.25 hours, how we get all those needs met. But we will start instructional day by 8:10. We'll be dismissed at 2:45, to get over to the high school, to pick them up. All of our meetings will be now held after school, so we'll have, majority of, I mean, I shouldn't say all, cause we'll have an IEP meeting or something that falls before school, but we really wanna be intentional about our meeting times. And they'll all be held after school, and we'll have that time to have a good meeting. Some of the things that we're doing this summer are really working in our ELA processes and approaches, how we can tweak that. We have a great curriculum. Now how can we tweak things to get the gains that we really should be seeing? Because we're making the gains, but we're just not making as much as we wanted to. So we'll be meeting with Resource and Solutions on the 12th, and then our leadership team on the 16th to kind of really delve into where can we make those changes and get the biggest bonus for that. So reward day on the fourth quarter was bouncy houses. Joe kind of talked about summer school as well. We are down a few numbers, whether that's just with our enrollment or I don't know. We did have a couple kids that showed up who weren't signed up today, which is very typical. So we'll see that fluctuate throughout the next week and a half, but very grateful for those staff who are willing to come in and give up 2 weeks of their summertime. Even though the kids were only out for 3 days, they're happy to be back. They just, we were in the cafeteria this morning and they come in just happy to be there. So it's wonderful to see. This snapshot data from our testing comes from the AFAST. This is the benchmarking we do 3 times a year, so we went from fall to spring, and you can see we always shoot for typical or aggressive growth. There's an area that's called flat growth, and there's an area that's just moderate growth. But we always shoot for the typical or aggressive growth, and you can kind of see the percentages there. Of the kids that are making that typical and aggressive growth, and then you can see the proficiency there as well. So if you have questions as we go through that, feel free to ask.
So I do.
Yeah.
5th grade is really low on reading. Is there and so those 5th graders will be 6th grade this year. And they've got 1 more year before they go into middle school and high school, which is a concern with them being lower.
Are you looking at reading?
Yeah, the reading proficiency at
33%.
So those would have been the kindergartners when COVID hit.
Mm-hmm. We have data meetings, 6 times a year with our grade level team.
Mm-hmm.
We put in all title access, all special ed teachers, grade level teams, and we just kind of dig into maybe some of the processes they're using in class. And I think there was a teacher who identified maybe their own stuff getting in the way of maybe doing things so we always go back and look at how we can tweak.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they made 58% typical or aggressive growth.
Yep.
Why we're not quite at proficiency, we don't know that, and I think that's kind of some of the work that we'll do during our PLCs and our leadership meeting. It's a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's one answer.
So part of me wonders is there's some of those basic skills from kindergarten that were missed. So whether or not it's that sound, the articulation, whatever that might be, just because that's a huge concern before they move into middle school and then high school.
I wish I had the groups up in front of me, how many of those kids were missing some of those skills would be hitting Title I Access Services, because we use what's called 95 Rap, who works on some of those phonics and the phonemic, phonemic awareness and phonics skills. What I can remember from that data meeting is those kids are making really aggressive growth, but that doesn't put them at grade level.
Yeah.
So they're getting the skill of reading, but they're not yet at grade level, and it's hard to see. We made great growth, but how do we continue to close that gap? I'm gonna tell you, there's probably not a lot of them kids that are reading over the summer.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's
sure.
the tough part, is how can we keep that going?
So in some of that, you know, would that be something to even maybe look at next year, is to focus a little bit heavier on that? Because if kids can't read, we're failing. Yeah, we've got phones that do our math, but reading is huge. You know, from everything from street signs to filling out a job application. Yeah.
That's why we, K-1, 2, we really focus on our reading interventions. But then when we start getting into that 3, 4, we try and give them both if they need it in that 40-minute window. Again, 20 minutes a day in math, 20 minutes a day in reading with additional support doesn't make, research would say the older they get, the longer the intervention should be. So, I don't know, I mean, we're really double dosing with reading core in our K3, but we don't have that ability for 4, 5, 6. I can bring that back to my leadership team that meet on the 16th. What can we do for those kiddos? We'd almost have to dig in student by student to see who needs what skill and how do we get it to them.
Yeah.
Because we also know that pulling them out of core, which is that grade level content, isn't the best instruction either, so.
Yeah.
It is a tough balance.
It is. But then you also think about that, you know, as they get older, if you're struggling in that area, you're gonna see higher issues with behaviors too. You know, it just compounds.
I'd like to say it's when you get older, but it's not. I mean, we see it in the lower grades. Like, they do not want to be perceived as they can't read. So that, yeah, we're aware of that, and we really try and hit it. I mean, all we can do is keep trying. But I will bring it back to my leadership team to see if we can at least look at that number and say, hey, what are some things we could try?
It could be just that, looking at the math, it could be just that cohort too. I mean, it just be, like you said, it could be some issues there when you look at the math proficiency too. It could be that group is needing some more.
It could have been those really basic skills that they were missing during that COVID time.
Because they were kindergartners when they hit. And that was that last half of that kindergarten year, which is so important.
And there is talk next year of like doing some movement of the target scores to doing this too, so. At our SCRED
In math, for
leadership
sure.
meeting, yeah, they're talking about
But if you're moving the target skills, that doesn't mean you're.
just the targets themselves, not the skills, but the
Okay.
targets, yeah. What it means to be proficient.
I think that's more at the 8th grade level. It's 6 through 8, but what we're finding is the 8th graders weren't being tested at 8th grade level. They're asking our 6th graders to know as much as our 8th graders, I think is.
Well, hey.
We like to achieve, but
My question would be, do we have a high, sped number in 5th grade or, behaviors
we
in 5th grade?
have a number of kids, probably our highest cohort is going into 6th grade that receive special ed services. So we have a lot of additional services being provided.
For 5th grade, for last
Yep.
year's 5th grade? Did we hold any kids back? Do we hold kids back?
On the bottom of my, skipping down to number 9, we did have a couple retentions.
I did see that, but I didn't want
What
to
I
ask what
did,
grade.
they weren't older grades. Those conversations with families were phenomenal. It's not anything we take lightly, like you're failing, we're gonna retain you. We actually have a retention scale that we go through with the teacher, the parent, the student, and we just sit down and have a real heart-to-heart conversation. These are conversations that have kind of gone on throughout the year, following our policy. And I think we made a good decision with those who, that's the way we went with them, so. But it's not in the older grades. They would show that retention at really any level is not great, but when you go through this retention scale, at least it gives us a better bird's eye view of like, is this a positive choice?
When we have a student that just goes through the test so fast and we know that they're done in 3 minutes, can we ask them to retake it at a speed that is,
Yeah, so they
applicable
come up,
to
they
their
get
grade?
flagged,
oh,
they say, oh, Joe, it took you 3 minutes.
yeah,
We typically have a heart-to-heart with them, and they can retake it. We don't do that as a common practice, but it will flag it right away. Typically, you're gonna see the same result, but, again, you have a heart-to-heart, like, we're trying to base the services that we give you and the supports off this test, and kind of what you're showing us you need. So if you don't wanna be in this said class, you could give it your effort, you know, your best effort. And we have seen that make a difference, but typically, it's the end of the year, kids just got done with MCAs, they're just done testing.
and
But,
that's what I wonder, if they just, understand how important the tests are for services to,
I mean, we give them the spiel, the teachers go through, at least my teachers go through and they set here's your goal, here's where you're at in the fall. They set a goal with them, like, what do you think you can do? And then they do a reflection, like, do you think you gave it your best effort? Do you think what could have helped different? You know, it's just, I don't know, I think all the things we're trying are making a difference. It's, we gotta keep pushing the grade level.
With the math proficiency, is there a fair amount of like word problems?
Story problems.
On
Yeah.
On the AFAS? It's a great question, I don't know. We do know that those kids who struggle reading, but with the math one, most of it can be read to you, so it's scripted, it'll read it to you.
they
So,
have that you're.
we have- Yep, we have less of a reading barrier with the math tests, because it will read it to you. Other than that, we had 6th grade graduation. It was phenomenal. I got a little emotional. These kids going to 7th grade are wonderful. They're just great kids. So I really like that we have our 6th grade graduation, kick them off to the high school with a good experience. So thank you for letting us use your school. And you can see our behavior data month by month comparison to last year. We blew last year away until we got to May, and then I don't know what happened. The wheels fell off the bus hardcore. And then similar to what you saw with Mr. Lattimore, is that's over year to year, our whole percentage of kids who, so we had 81% who got 0 to 1 referrals, so that's where we wanna be. We had 21 kids who got more than 6. And those ones are we continue to look at, any trends, like, is there a time of day? Is there a day? Is it, what's the barrier to them being able to be successful? And we try different things, so. Any other questions for me? Just really thank you folks for the amazing support throughout a great school year, so thank you.
Could I ask say an unrecorded thing, just for a minute?
Can you wait till after the meeting? 'Cause the open
No,
forum-
it's nothing real serious, it was just about the reading and math thing.
Cause we usually keep our open forum at the beginning for, so we can do it at the
Yeah.
end, or,
Okay, that's fine, after the meeting.
thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mrs. Scullard? If not, we're gonna move on to, thank you, Mrs. Scullard.
Thank you.
We're gonna move on to board committees. Does anybody wish to present from their committee?
I had a script committee last month. It was pretty tense and emotional, about budget. Out of the 6 of us from the districts couldn't agree on a budget number. And then ended up leaving the meeting not having any sort of agreement. But it sounds like they have made a decision with the superintendent. So then hopefully tomorrow night's meeting, it was just a big hang up of, the SCRED governing, or the SCRED budget policy is to have an 8%, fund balance. And SCRED was wanting to have a fund balance, right now it's at 15. And the costs are gonna raise for all of the districts, and they proposed a 13% and a 12% and a 10%. And there was some districts that wanted to see what it would look like at that 8%, since some of the districts involved in SCRED were going a little bit below their budget or their fund balance. It was not, the 8% was not an option that most people wanted to look at. 10% wasn't even, so yeah, it was pretty heated, it was passionate, it was not a fun meeting, so. Tomorrow will be better, so.
Should be better.
Anybody else? I'll go over teaching and learning, I guess. There was some talk, regarding 7th and 8th grade laptops, and if they're going home or not, and they're gonna talk kinda more about that over the summer of the tech department, it sounds like. Curriculum purchase, we have, our social studies curriculum that will be purchased, it's, I believe I wrote down 37,000.
Oh, that's about
So
right.
it's about fair to what we paid for last year. It is accessed digitally, and there will be a classroom set in each classroom. So there will be something in the classroom if they don't have their laptops with them or on or charged or whatever. We talked about some of the future standards. One of them is a financial literacy, I believe is what I wrote down, and that will be put in with our senior strategies that our juniors and seniors take, so we're kind of already in, ahead of the game is what I understand. And then, if you guys, remember, they talked a little bit about, geometry construction, as a new math class next year. It sounds like there was 12 kids that have signed up, so they're gonna maybe look at that to bring it forward.
Yeah, so look at that, and like those that may have failed the geometry this year, then we would, so it'll be a full class, like get some of
Yeah,
those kids
plus
in there
the
for a
failed
different
list.
exposure to geometry, that'll.
Graduation, as Mr. Lattimore said, it went fantastic. It, is fun to see a lot of staff members there, so that's nice. And commodities will be coming up.
So you said the social studies curriculum, is that the one that was being piloted this past year?
All right, moving on, we have budget calendar update.
Yep, and there's communications coming around in that orange folder too. So make sure you see that before you go. But budget update, as of June 1st, we have, you can see what we've spent compared to what our budget was proposed to be, which we've spent about 85%, a little bit higher of our approved budget, and June 1st is 91% of the school year. June is, there's a lot of things in various contracts, payouts, things like that. So June is one of our more expensive months than you throw in summer school. But I am pretty hopeful that we're gonna come in and come in under budget. So of course, there's still 21 days or so, who knows what happens, but I'm pretty confident with where we're gonna be as of June 9th, even with all the things that we have contractually to pay out here in the last part of the fiscal year. Otherwise, I'm ready to go on to policy reapproval.
Does anybody have any questions regarding budget update?
Has anything come out from today's session?
The state called their special sessions, had to start at 10 AM and they were supposed to be done by 7 AM tomorrow. I haven't seen anything come out of that yet.
Next up is policy reapproval, bus driver evaluation and procedures.
Just looking for reapproval of this policy. It was sent to Mr. Beckman. He didn't have feedback as far as changes, so looking for reapproval of this policy.
So I'm looking for a motion to accept policy 713, bus driver evaluation and procedures.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up is the Quebec lease.
Recommend approval of the Quebec lease and doing some research after the last board meeting. We do not have to legally go out for bid unless it's $25,000. And I feel that even though that we would have to pay taxes, so the other part, we would not have to pay the taxes if we didn't lease it to anyone. But I believe this is a win-win, as by leasing it, having someone take care of the property, I feel that is worth the $800 that we are paying out of the taxes. So I'm recommending approval of the Quebec lease for 2025.
Did, and they were only doing part of the land, right?
Correct.
It wasn't all of the
Correct.
land. So,
How many acres are there?
I think there's 46 total.
So
So-
6 is farmed and 40 is pasture is what I understand.
that they're using?
They're using the pasture.
Okay.
Is there a disadvantage to just putting it out for a bid and maybe he's the only one that bids and he can get whatever price he wants, but at least we're transparent and giving everybody a shot?
Have you ever had anybody else approach you about that?
No, and I don't know exactly how long, but this has been what we've done every year in the 14 years I've been here. I don't know that it's ever gone out for bid.
So after last month's meeting, nobody has come forward on anything?
What if we put it out for a bid? Maybe people would come forward.
They could. I think it's my recommendation would be to go forward. I think it's been a very good win-win relationship. I think Mr. Quebec's a taxpayer, has taken care of that property well for a long time, at least 15 years that I know of. I think it's working, so why change anything?
And I think it'd be too late to put it out for bids this year, in my opinion, because he's already using it, I believe. I think he's got cattle out there.
Leo, do you know how long we've had this? Is it all year, 10 year?
No.
You don't know?
It came afterwards, but
Okay.
it originally included 80 acres, 40 on Dull Road and 40 on,
Oh,
and then the city bought, the 34 point something acres. So it's been, and he rented all 80 originally, as
Okay.
long as I can remember. And the city gets by without paying taxes, my understanding is because I think Danny pays donation,
no.
but I don't know if that's ethically right to do that now.
I'm looking for a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Would it be more beneficial just to change the duration of the lease such that it goes from spring to fall? Instead of right in the middle of the growing season, I mean.
I think we'd have to change the next one to give both Mr. Quebec and us time to get it right, because we're already in the middle of it right now. I think that'd be something to look at
And I don't
for the next one.
know that the growing season really applies because it is pasture land, so it's not tillable acres. So it's not like a farmer couldn't go in and like plow it, I mean, they could, but it'd be a lot of work. So it's just like fenced in pasture. It's not like seeded down, it's not growing crops.
No hay bales?
No,
Nope.
it's just like rocks and fences and it's just like grazing land.
Okay.
And I think I had asked somebody kind of what was the estimate on, you know, if you're leasing land for hay. And I don't remember now what I was told, but when I calculated it out, it was about what he was at with the leasing.
What about countering, I mean, it's been 3 years since the prices have gone up, is that right, for the rental of the property?
My first year, we raised it, so this would be the third year he's paid, or would pay 700.
Isn't it time to like ask for an increase? Our taxes have gone up, I would guess, haven't they?
No, they've stayed right around that 1,500.
And this does end in December. This one ends December 31st of 2025.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is Jake Pride. Does anybody have any additions to Jake Pride?
Just like I said at the beginning of the meeting, I added, thank you, Beaver Meadows. The outside of Hinckley Elementary is looking very, very nice, so we added that this morning.
And I just want to touch on, it was a great year, and to thank all the staff. Next up is board education, terminology and acronyms.
Just a kind of review, we do this every couple months, just you hear a lot of acronyms and terminology, so thought I'd keep that, especially as we're heading to July, where we will go through a lot of these with our bills and payments and things like that, our business meetings. So wondering if there's any question on any of these terms or acronyms, or anything I can clarify.
Does anybody have any questions? And we're gonna keep moving on to our bid committee recommendations.
So we met last Thursday. You can see with bakery, we had one bid that was presented by Pano Gold, which is our current vendor. You can see they presented $11,746, which is up from the last year, but the committee will recommend that as that was our only bid, and we do have high satisfaction with that. For garbage, we also only had one bid, Matt Sanitation. You can see what that bid came in at, $13,759.20, which is up a little bit again. Again, it's our only bid. We have good working relationship with Matt's. The custodial staff feel like that's going very well, so that's recommended. Diesel, we had one bid presented with Kurtz. Same as in past years, where diesel is at the pump price, unleaded at the pump price. We do get a volume discount of 5 cents per gallon. But the committee would also like to recommend that when Kurtz is closed or busy, that and gas is needed, that Slims will also be used for the gas buses and Type 3 vehicles. And then the last area we take bids on, we did have 2 dairy bids. One is from our current vendor, Prairie Farm. You can see their bid was $70,683.83. Sorry, I didn't have a decimal in there. 30 cents, sorry. Which is up slightly, but the other bid was $74,931 from Kemp's. So the recommended bid is to stay with dairy. Just a reminder that we do bid other things. Jill Carlier is bidding on staffing budgets all summer long. She's out getting quotes on the staff budgets that they submit, things like that. And then we also do snowplow bids, which come every other year in the fall. But the bid committee is recommending we approve Pana Gold, Matt Sanitation, Kurtz, Cenex, and Prairie Farm.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the bids? Does anybody have any issues with approving one for all? So then I'm looking for a motion to accept the bids for garbage, diesel, dairy, and bakery.
I move that.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is long-term facilities maintenance levy.
Normally in June, we approve both Scred and Hinckley-Finlayson's. We cannot approve ours yet until the legislation is done, but co-ops like Scred can. So looking for approval on their LTFM funding, which helps upkeep the Scred buildings, vision, transition programs, the actual Scred building. And you can see how that's broken down by each of the Scred members in the links that are provided. Each of the 6 Scred districts will approve this, and then it ultimately gets approved by the board by the time we do our levy in December. So this is giving authority to make the improvements to the buildings or put money into those accounts where they can save money for roof projects, parking lot projects, things like that. So I'm looking for approval on Scred's LTFM 10-year levy plan.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, I was just gonna, so when you were talking about all the budget cuts, has Scred done, I mean, all school districts are doing cuts. Has Scred?
Staffing cuts?
Well, just in general,
Last
Staffing
year,
cuts is no.
last year, go ahead, Heather.
No, that's just, there wasn't any staffing cuts as part of their budget.
but even just some of the budget stuff in and of itself, so like all school districts are having to do cuts.
Yeah.
Is Scred doing anything to help offset some of that?
It's
from the
hard,
districts?
going into next year, the superintendents have asked to look at staffing, programming, and we have committed as superintendents to let them, the executive director, know sooner, probably around Christmas time, of do we want to see staffing reductions, things like that. With special ed, it's harder, because you have to, by law, have the, and Scred's combined, so it's a puzzle, where if you cut special ed staffing, you can get put in a financial jeopardy type situation. So, and that comes across with all 6 districts, so we might be cutting, but if Pine City adds, that balances out. So, because it's driven by IEPs, things like that, not just your budget's bad, so you gotta make cuts. You have to have these staffing in these programs, because that's what's in these students' IEPs. But we have asked, because I believe every one of the Scred districts are cutting, that we need to look at our staffing and programming. Can we combine positions? They also need to look at their programming and staffing if the 6 districts are kind of doing a similar thing.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's why I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
for that balancing out.
Yeah.
You know, what, and a lot of, I mean, Scred staff can be good, really good to work with. Wages are definitely higher
Yep.
than even within the district.
Yep.
So is that being looked at at all?
Yes, I'm on that committee with their negotiators, so, and it's the 3 small school superintendents who are, so
Okay.
we have said that I understand you're a little further south, but we can't, and yes, they're competing with Forest Lake, Twin Cities pay thing, but you're also representing East Central, Hinckley-Finlayson, you know, we can't afford Twin Cities pay, so it's that fine balance, especially for Chisago and North Branch, which are competing with Forest Lake and those northern suburb school districts, but we're not, you know, and we don't necessarily have that. So it is a fine balance. I am on those negotiating.
Yeah, and there can be benefits to
For
working
sure.
in smaller districts, I mean, there's benefits
Yep.
with that. We had talked before about feedback, about Scred staff feedback, did we get any feedback?
What I've heard from those who I talked to said they're getting supported.
Okay.
I heard especially from our special ed, the case managers always get the support they feel they have, but I heard we got better service from our academic service coordinators this year. These 2 would be able to say that for certain, but that's the feedback that I've gotten is, and it kind of ebbs and flows, because we share those staff, so if a big issue's happening in East Central, we might not see them for a couple days, or vice versa. If we have a big issue, East Central might not see them, but I feel like, and you guys can chime in if you'd like to, but our staff feel they're supported.
Yeah, I think that part where you said it ebbs and flows, there are times where you're like, I haven't seen them forever, but, and then when we need them, we have some big things going on, they're there to support us. When they're not, I'm able to share that out and, you know, that they sit in with us on our problem-solving team. SST, I mean, they are present, they're involved in doing some problem solving with like student situations, so I do feel this year went very well. Having on-site school psychs was phenomenal. So I thought we got the support we needed.
Okay, so staff is,
Yes,
teachers, staff, they're
If they
saying
reach out
yes
to
that we're.
yeah,
I mean, that's the thing, we have to continue to push our staff, like,
Okay,
ask for some help. We have these resources here, so that does make its way into our PST and SST meetings, like, we've probably had more academic support this year, like having Ms. Hankey come into the classrooms and help to give our teachers time to either observe a student or do some paperwork or, you know, some of those things that have to be done in the special ed world. So we had a lot of support that way as well.
it's just what I wanted to make sure is that teachers and staff are feeling supported,
yep.
not just having the folder
Yep.
with resources.
Well, it's at the high school too, we get that, we have that support there that we need to.
Okay.
And part of like with their staffing though too, so if they were to cut it, a position, that means all 6 districts then would have to like try and find somebody to provide that support for, if it's low incidence, if it's, you know, whatever the case may be, then now all 6 of us are competing for one person as well, so it is tough when you're working with a cooperative that like fills a need, and how do you cut staffing on that? But ours that we have here have been very hands-on, approachable. They've always been able, I mean, when I call for a problem, they're there to help or ask questions, so yeah, and they're there for our teachers as well, so.
Yeah, and I wouldn't so much want to see staffing cut with SCRED if they're looking at any budgets cuts. You know, there's ways to cut out with supplies,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we're all looking at that. So I just wanna make sure that they're also,
Yeah, they are for sure with
Being
supplies and things like that for this year.
okay.
Just they won't have staffing reduction going into next year.
Do you ever see what Rum River's doing, or I can't think of the one that's north?
Yeah, I don't see it, but Nicole Woodward, the exec, will share comparison, negotiation, I saw comparisons.
Okay.
But, you know, as far as their end of the year, you know, going into next year budget, she'll share, but negotiations, she for sure runs those comparables with Rum River, so I do see it then.
How do they figure out the pay-as-you-go percentage?
Pay as you go. So it's by ADM, so our average daily memberships. So when they take also, you know, our membership may change. So they look at it, teachers or the staff kind of do moments of time sampling, so they look at it that way, how much time they're in each place, but then they come back to when they're billing us our average daily membership. So it kind of works out on a percentage that way.
The fact that we're higher than our city.
I wondered if her numbers were the beginning of last year, because we obviously lost some students this year. I don't know that for a fact.
You know, we're 9% and they're 8%. There's something bigger than us.
We in Rush City switch, oh, no.
No, you're right.
Oh,
I can ask.
yeah, I'd like to know why theirs is closer to central than.
Yeah, I can ask.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to accept the SCRED LTFM plan.
I think Heather made the motion
Oh, we
already,
made the
did you?
motion. There's a,
There's a motion, not a second.
I'd second it.
Dave, you got a second?
Sure.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion further?
I just asked who the second was for the SCRED form.
Leo.
Leo, okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 7-0. Next up is Minnesota State High School League resolution.
Just looking for approval to rejoin the Minnesota State High School League. Dave will have to do some work in the computer to make this official. They don't do it by paper anymore, but the board should vote that we want to continue with the Minnesota State High School League. So this is that recommendation.
Did our membership cost go up?
I wasn't able to find that today. I know you had asked that, but then I went home not feeling the best, so
Okay.
I can find that
You
out.
just let us know maybe on
Yes.
Friday.
Yes.
So we're looking for a motion to accept the Minnesota State High School League resolution for membership.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is superintendent eval. Next month is July. We'll go into closed session for superintendent eval. This week I will send out the superintendent eval like I have in past years. Does anybody have any issues besides Leo? I'll print one out for you, Leo, and put it in your Friday
Good.
update.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any issues with the Google Forum? Okay, so then, I haven't even looked at dates, but our July meeting is the 14th.
Correct.
Are we still looking at doing a special?
We'll do a special one,
Yeah, we'll do a
but
special.
my thought with the special meeting was to have a closed session to talk about properties.
Oh, so July 14th, we'll have a closed session for superintendent eval, so I think I'll put the 7th as, your due dates. That gives you quite a bit of time, almost less than, just under a month, I think you can do it. I really appreciate them back. I'm gonna push it off a little further because I'm not gonna be around the last week of the month. Does anybody have any questions regarding that now? If not, please email me or call me. You have my number. Next up is a special school board meeting.
I'm recommending, we do need to have a special school board meeting, because we need to approve a budget by June 30th. I'm recommending, just based on board member feedback, June 17th at 5 PM. I'm not as worried as when I typed this. The state did call a special session today. They're supposed to be done by 7 AM tomorrow morning. So in theory, this date should work. I am a little worried in case that doesn't happen, but my recommendation based on board member feedback is to have a special meeting in Hinckley, 17th at 5 PM.
Will that work for everybody?
Will not work for me.
It will not.
I'll probably be working.
But it was the majority.
I heard back officially from 4, so I hadn't heard back from all 7.
Did any of the dates work, Toby?
I think only the 26th would work for me.
Okay. And I know the 26th won't work for me. You? Okay. Can you, video in, or you're actually flying, you're not somewhere but where you can video in again?
It probably would not work.
Okay.
Timing.
Well, if that's the only date that works for 6, I think we should stick to the 17th. So I'm looking for a motion to accept the proposed date of June 17th at 5 PM. There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm just gonna abstain.
Okay. Dave, you have that? We're at the end of our meeting. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?